Welcome, folks. I'm Jaby Koay, joined by ACHARA KIRK.
What's up?
We're looking at Black Widow Breakdown, Easter eggs and details you missed from New Rockstars. So, thank you, New Rockstars, for allowing us to react to this. You guys, if you haven't already, please subscribe and hit that bell icon, all notifications, and give this video an upvote if you could be so kind. Lets YouTube know that we're doing some cool stuff here. And also subscribe to New Rockstars. They just crossed over 3 million subscribers. You can help them get to 3.5. All right, here we go.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of Marvel Studios' Black Widow, which finally tells the story of the most secretive Avenger and the blood on her ledger. Really is the first MCU film to release after a 2-year gap. It's just welcome relief to appreciate all the interesting filmmaking details, the MCU Easter eggs, and other hidden gems that appear all over this film.
I can't wait!
And let's dive into the past, or past. And before we begin, be sure to head over to newrockstarsmerch.com for our Black Widow-inspired latest Obsession shirt. I
that's
kinda play on the
cute.
classic hourglass logo. Super limited supply. We got another Black Widow shirt design you might like, as well as some Loki designs like the Gator Loki polo shirt
I still
and the
love that
Loki Out of
one.
Time tee that I'm wearing. Get it all at newrockstarsmerch.com. Here we go. We open in Ohio, 1995, where Natasha Romanoff, age 11, played by Ever Anderson, daughter of Mila Jovovich, spent her youth
what?
with a
Really?
family of Russian spies.
I can totally see the resemblance.
Yelena
Yeah.
Belova, Florence Pugh, but here, Violet McGraw, Black Widow's longtime rival in the comics, Alexei Shostakov, aka the Red Guardian, David Harbour, a Soviet counterpart to Captain America, and Melina Vostokov, Rachel Weisz, aka the Iron Maiden from the comics. But from this dysfunctional family unit, we get this film's central thematic conflict: forgiving your family. Because the main events of Black Widow are set right after Captain America's Civil War in 2016, 2 years before the Avengers would reunite in Infinity War. But in this interim period, with her Avengers family and this kind of divorce, Natasha Romanoff must both forgive and seek forgiveness from her past family so that she can learn to heal the family that she chose.
I didn't actually know that was the theme of the movie.
That makes so much sense. I mean, I knew that it was family, right? Like,
Yeah.
family is a central theme, but he kind of explained it really well, that it's about forgiveness, because yeah, he's absolutely right. It wasn't until she forgave her, I was going to say birth family, but it's not even that, but you know, like her original family. It wasn't until she did that she realized exactly what she needed to do in order to bring the Avengers back together again.
Okay. Well, yeah, that certainly crystallizes what the objective was with this particular story. Because if you listen to a lot of the reviewers, everyone was kind of like, this movie happened and it's just going to be forgotten.
Right.
And because so many reviewers are disappointed with this film. I enjoyed it.
I liked it, yeah.
Similar to the premise of The Americans on FX, Russian spy families are actually a real-world thing. In 2010, the FBI arrested 10 Russian illegals, including 4 couples who had all been living undercover in America for years. And you'll notice the opening credits allude to this with a TV report from WHIH, that's Marvel's in-universe news service, about Natasha's family being outed, evoking those reports that we saw in 2010. But the year 1995 is an eventful one in MCU history, as S.H.I.E.L.D. was stretched thin, dealing with the Skrulls and the Kree and the return of Carol Danvers in the events of Captain Marvel. But also, elsewhere in the universe, Gamora was taken from her native people and turned into a deadly weapon by Thanos, parallel to the girl soldier future awaiting these two. Young Natasha has blue hair covering up her red roots, already foretelling a life of hair alteration and masking her red. The sisters exchange this whistle, which they echo to say goodbye at the end of the film.
Aww.
And the opening lines of this film are also bookended.
Flip upside down, and I bet you're gonna fall down first.
And later, when Natasha finds Yelena on the ground, Yelena says,
We're both upside down.
Yeah, that's right.
after
She
stealing a
does.
secret government disc, they have to flee, and they play Yelena's favorite song, Don McLean's American Pie, a song about the 1959 plane crash that killed early rock and roll stars Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Bopper, a song that many interpret as a kind of allegory for American pop culture throughout the 50s and 60s.
I did not know that's what that song was about. It was just a fun song to sing along to.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what its meaning was. It was like it's like the longest song ever made.
Yeah, but you know, back in those days, a lot of the songs that were coming out at that time had deeper meanings, but they sounded really poppy and really fun. But
Well, that's generally what you do. You like the song Pumped Up Kicks. It's like, it's
Yeah.
a really dark song, but it's a fun beat.
Sounds cute.
Yeah. The whole thing about them being upside down, that went over my head at the end.
Oh no, I remember watching it and thinking, oh yeah, that's a callback to the beginning. Oh, sisters love.
I love a callback as much as the next person, but that one went over my head.
With all these crazy specific references that Don McLean has cryptically never acknowledged what they actually mean, but generally it is about American disillusionment of that era. But interestingly, Yelena just likes the song for its simple, catchy melody, not really realizing the darker truth of the lyrics, much like the way she sees her life in Ohio as just pure and genuine without really understanding the darkness of what's going on. Notice how the song plays over some departing images of Americana, including a football game, recalling the lyrics of the fourth verse of American Pie about a football game halftime marching band refusing to leave the field, which some say could have really been about the Beatles' rock takeover with Sgt. Pepper, and in the shot you can see the marching band on the far end of the field there. When they get to the plane, Alexei clears the way by showing some surprising super strength.
Yeah.
Notice how the trailer flips with just a solid thud, no bounce, just a subtle animation effect showing how heavy this thing is. Now they're pursued by SHIELD SUVs, not those of the FBI or even the local PD.
Yeah, I noticed
indicating that they're not being chased because they're Russian spies, but because they interfered with a SHIELD operation, which we learn more about when they arrive in Cuba and meet with General Dreykov.
And the North Institute. Ashes.
Yes, the North Institute is from a 2004 run of Black Widow comics. The Institute worked on behalf of the Gynecon Corporation. I know, it's called the
It sounds like gynecologist.
But they were killing off Widow agents after they purchased Russian biotech from the Red Room's successor. But in this film, it's a similar program, but run by SHIELD, which was secretly run by Hydra at the time, in conjunction with their Winter Soldier program to produce a cellular map of the inner brain for chemically induced mind control. But Dreykov is a familiar name in the MCU, first mentioned by Loki all the way back in the first Avengers film.
I got red in my ledger. I'd like to wipe it out.
Can you? Can you wipe out that much red? Dreykov's daughter.
And yes, we will meet Dreykov's daughter very soon. But these opening titles are scored by Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit, but covered by Think Up Anger featuring Malia J. Now this song was written by Kurt Cobain as an anarchic anthem for disaffected Gen Xers, but now through this female voice, it's used to convey these girls being converted into mindless assets for the interests of the powerful. Notice how Natasha breaks away to give Yelena something folded. This was the photo booth strip that she took from the car, which Yelena later uses in the movie to mark her message for Natasha. The montage shows a close-up of Dreykov's ring, which later is the key that Natasha uses to unlock and download all the Red Room data. The montage shows footage of them staging home videos of Christmas and other holidays, as Natasha reveals later that all the photos in their albums were shot on a single day with different backdrops to make them look like a convincingly American family. We see a close-up of a red hair bow rotating to become the hourglass shape of the Black Widow logo, now on a human target, similar to the ones Natasha remembered shooting at in her Red Room flashbacks in Age of Ultron, but were actually people. We see imagery of the North Institute file and pigs, a clue for how Melina will use the North Institute data to test mind control on pigs first, but then later on humans that are being used as metaphorical pigs for the slaughter. And then all these crazy photos of Dreykov, photoshopped into photos with various world leaders, including Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, Boris Yeltsin, Condoleezza Rice, and Vladimir Putin. Yeah, so much for this guy staying in the shadows. We catch up with Natasha Romanoff 21 years later in 2016, right after Civil War, when she was on the run. William Hurt returns as Thaddeus Ross.
Just because he's got photos with these high-end politicians or political figures, it doesn't mean he's not in the shadows. Oftentimes, like, the best place to hide is out in the open.
I guess.
I'm making two different points that are sort of going against each other. The people who are in control, they're there, you just don't know who they are.
Sure, I mean, it could be what you're saying, like, hiding out in the open is fine.
Yeah.
And then everything else that you do is just kind of, under the radar and no one knows that it's you.
Right.
But everyone seems to know that it's him.
Right. And the fact that he's hiding in the shadows, like, he might have had a meeting with Vladimir Putin or whatever, but someone happened to catch a photo of him because it's like an American super spy with the camera. Like, no one was supposed to see them together, but someone managed to take that photo, and then they got circled. Do you see what I'm saying? So it doesn't mean he's not hiding in the shadows. I'm just challenging New Rockstar's thought on that. That's
I don't know. I think I'm inclined to agree with him, though.
But, I mean, he could still be in the shadows just because he's not hiding in his tower in the sky.
Yeah, but he just disappeared for a while. That's the whole point of the movie is he disappeared.
He went into the darker shadows.
Yeah.
Later, in 2016, right after Civil War, when she was on the run, William Hurt returns as Thaddeus Ross and says,
Natasha Romanoff is in violation of the Sokovia Accords. She assaulted the king of Wakanda. Make an example out of her.
Yes, referring to the superhero registration law that Captain America refused to sign, and Natasha, despite initially agreeing with Tony Stark, swung over to Team Cap by attacking Black Panther to allow Cap and Bucky to escape. And Ross tells her,
"We got Barton, we got Wilson, and the other guy, the incredible shrinking convict."
Referring to the members of Team Cap, who at this point were still imprisoned on the raft, including Hawkeye and Falcon, and the incredible shrinking convict is Ant-Man Scott Lang, and I love how he uses the Hulk's incredible moniker for that. Natasha brings up Ross's triple bypass surgery that he used to explain his absence at the start of Civil War, but she slips them by actually being on a ferry to Norway. Girl, I'll get you, Black Widow. In Morocco, adult Yelena Belova leads a team targeting an older widow, Roxana, who sprays Yelena with the antidote to the widow's chemical subjugation. I like how during their knife fight, Yelena dropped...
Roxana is Michelle Lee, for those
Yes.
of you who don't know.
Yes.
She's a friend of mine. She's dope.
Sprays Yelena with the antidote to the widow's chemical subjugation. I like how during their knife fight, Yelena drops the knife from one hand to the other. I love that move. Natasha actually later uses it while fighting Taskmaster, just showing some of their parallel training there. We first meet
yeah, that's
Taskmaster
smart.
as they watch footage from the Civil War airport battle of Hawkeye fighting Black Panther. That was actually updated from the trailer version of the shot that showed Taskmaster watching footage of Natasha in Iron Man 2. So in the comics, Taskmaster is Tony Masters, a mercenary and assassin with photographic reflexes that mirror the combat style of any combatant. But this film changes the character to, as we learn in the third act of the film, Antonia, Dreykov's daughter, with all of her mirrored fighting not being an innate physical skill, but instead based on some fighting analysis algorithm in her heads-up display in her helmet and the chip that's in the back of her head. So she's a bit more Terminator-y now.
That's a great reference, actually, Terminator, because that's how I felt about her in the film. I was watching Jeremy Johns' review of Black Widow, and he was like, oh, she's the worst villain ever. But I felt like the way the film showed her, she was actually scary because just she seemed like an unstoppable force.
Right.
You know, especially in that sequence when she was in the truck, it got, you know, Terminator 2 vibes of Liquid Terminator going after John Connor and just like plowing through everything, not giving up about anything else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I thought the way the film designed her was cool. Maybe she could have done with more development, but I like the Terminator reference. It's not like there was backstory to the Liquid Terminator. He was just a killing machine.
And he was scary.
And so here, to me, I see her as just a plain old killing machine, and she's scary.
Yeah, she certainly didn't seem human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard from people who had got to see the film early on, just like ourselves, that her being changed from a guy to a girl was extremely controversial. I haven't heard any like hoo-ha about it on the internets yet, but maybe I'm just not paying attention.
Maybe. I mean, I can imagine that's like a really big deal because, you know, like in the comics, he is a man. It looks like he's a black man too. So it's like, oh, now you've changed it to a woman?
Yeah.
Like what? Why?
Yeah, I know.
don't know.
Well, you just add that extra dash and it becomes a lady. XX. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The baby.
Chromosomes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Science!
But I'll say this is similar to the upgrade in Iron Man's Mark 46 armor that he used to also predict Cap's fighting combat style in Civil War. In a safe house, Natasha meets her contact, Rick Mason, Otife Benley.
Passports, a couple of local driver's licenses.
Fanny Longbottom.
Yeah, later on in the post-credit scene, Yelena names her dog Fanny.
I was gonna ask you about that. Why would he, because he's English, why would he give her a name Fanny Longbottom when Fanny means vajayjay?
Well, because it's also a name.
In England?
Yeah.
So Fanny, the name, also means vagina.
Yes, but Fanny is more of like an old-fashioned English name. So, yeah, no one would call their kid Fanny now. You're just setting them up for being bullied.
I'm going to name my son Richard and my daughter Fanny. That's weird.
And then this exchange.
Just some mail and personals from the Budapest safe house.
Budapest?
Yeah, Budapest.
No, it's Budapest.
Budapest.
Oh, that's why he said that at the beginning.
Budapest.
That's why he
Yes,
made that.
Natasha is using the Hungarian.
At the very beginning of the video, that's why at the very beginning, he made that sound of like, next.
Let's dive into the past, or past.
Budapest.
Yes, Natasha is using the Hungarian pronunciation, calling back her exchange with Hawkeye in Avengers.
Just like Budapest all over again.
You and I remember Budapest very differently.
Natasha looks at some blonde hair dye, setting up how she will change her hair by the end of this film to set up her look in Avengers Infinity War. And she watches the 007 Roger Moore film Moonraker, with some surprisingly similar plot points as Black Widow, including a skydive parachute sequence that people definitely should not have survived, and a hidden base floating in secret above Earth. But Taskmaster attacks Natasha using a shield with a discus hurl that she likely got from watching footage of Captain America. And I love this detail. When Natasha crawls crawls out of her vehicle looking for Taskmaster. Notice how the vehicle suddenly stops teetering, even though without Nat, nothing would be weighing down that side of the vehicle, telling us that it was Taskmaster who had landed on top of it. Natasha tries to take down Taskmaster with her classic scissors maneuver, but Taskmaster uses it right back on her. Now within Taskmaster's heads-up display, on the right are the words evaluating defensive measures, with on the left a predict percentage and a threat percentage, and then various pressure points on her body with percentages maybe to show how effective a blow to that region would be or how likely Natasha is to use it. And again, yes, this is very similar to Stark's Mark 46 tech, so much so that I'm wondering if a version or an early prototype of it could have been stolen from Stark's research. They do simultaneous flip jumps to their feet, something that Natasha remembers as a move she later uses in combination with the downward punch to release the antidote on her.
It would have been even sweeter if in the kip up, in landing, the punch happened at the very, very same time. There's this old Yuen Biao movie, I forgot what it's called, but Yuen Biao is like in the same company as Jackie Chan, for those of you who don't know. There's a move he does where someone's kicking at him, he's on the floor, he does a kip up, and instead of landing it, he continues the motion, landing on his knees to catch the kick. It's a beautiful thing because Yuen Biao is very acrobatic. And so I don't know if she actually learned how to do a kip up or if it was a stunt double and they put her face on there. But it would have been cool if the motion continued until the fist hits. Like her feet and knee hits the ground at the same time as her fist. Exactly. That would have been dope. But that's asking a bit much. I thought the move was cool nevertheless. Like, I'm just saying, oh, you could take it a little further.
You can just tweak it.
Yeah, just tweak it a little bit more. Yeah. Regarding the scissor kick earlier, I have gotten so sick of seeing that in entertainment, whether it's a TV show or a film or whatever. But I thought the rendition they did here, where it was used on her right away, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Never seen that combination before.
Then in the second scan, Taskmaster's display shows 2 numbers per arm, the top of which may correspond to the likelihood she'll strike with that side, the bottom maybe meaning how much of a threat that strike would be. And then the directive has changed to redirect to primary target, meaning that all of this is being viewed remotely by Dreykov, giving her commands moment to moment. Natasha lassos Taskmaster to the overhead beam, but Taskmaster slashes it and swings into this acrobatic flip, maybe a move that she got from watching videos of Spider-Man that we know are on YouTube at this point, and knocks Natasha off the ledge, but with her, the vials. So Natasha takes these to Budapest, where she spars with Yelena, and then after the fight she asks,
What bullet does that? Not bullets, arrows.
Another reminder of Natasha and Hawkeye's past in Budapest, and perhaps this was some scuffle after their attempt to kill Dreykov, which Natasha reveals was the final step in her defection to S.H.I.E.L.D. Yelena didn't want Natasha to bring the vials back here, she wanted her to give them to her scientist friends of the Avengers like Tony Stark, but Natasha says they aren't talking. Just one example of how the Civil War really just left the world a less safe place.
Right.
They're chased by other widows. One tragically breaks her leg, so Dreykov decides to terminate her remotely from his tablet. Yikes. Taskmaster chases them in a freaking tank, plowing through the cars on the street as they are fleeing on a motorcycle.
I thought that was
with
dope.
Taskmaster's Terminator essence, it's just hard not to see this as an homage
Exactly.
to the T2 Judgment Day.
Exactly.
Natasha and Yelena hide from Taskmaster in a ceiling vent.
Barton and I spent 2 days hiding out up here.
The doodles include a Hawkeye arrow, some games of tic-tac-toe, and a game of Hangman. It's hard to make out what the word was supposed to be, but based on the letters and the wrong letters already chosen, I'm gonna guess butterfly. A flashback shows that Budapest mission with Natasha tracking Dreykov's daughter. Yeah, that sound effect of Antonia stepping out of the car is a modulated version of the sound Taskmaster made earlier when she hopped out of the car to confront Natasha on the bridge. Just a little clue telling us that they are the same person. Yelena explains that the reason Dreykov was able to stay off of Natasha's radar or never tried to kill her was to stay hidden from the big Avengers.
Wait, what are the big ones?
Well, I doubt the god from space has to take an ibuprofen after a fight.
Of course, referencing Thor, though Thor was off-world during Civil War.
I gotta watch the movie one more time because some of the dialogue was lost where we watched the film.
Yeah.
Because the walls are very flat at that screening theater. There's sometimes just this reverberation because there was less people because of COVID-19 and all that stuff. It's even more echo because like usually that echo gets stomped out when you have the theater way more filled out.
Yeah.
That was a great scene, I thought, because that's when she goes, why do you always do that? And she shows the move and stuff. I thought it was cute.
It's cute.
Yelena mocks Natasha's landing pose with the hair flip back.
It's a fighting pose. You're a total poser.
Not a poser.
One of my favorite running jokes of the movie, but also an example of how to Yelena, Natasha's family of the Avengers seems like a joke, a way of hitting back at her for Natasha saying Yelena thinking her Ohio family was so great, that being a joke. Later they talk about their parents.
Did you ever look for your parents? The real ones?
Well, my mom abandoned me in the street like garbage.
In Endgame, Natasha would be shaken to hear Red Skull call her daughter of Ivan, meaning she has some father out there named Ivan. But back in Infinity War, he also called Gamora daughter of Thanos when he was not her biological father, just a very hands-on paternal figure. So really this leaves this Ivan guy a MCU mystery. Yelena says she invented histories for them all.
My sister moved out west.
Is that right?
You're a science teacher. Your husband, he renovates houses?
I like to think of this hypothetical life as Natasha marrying Bruce Banner, who does, in a way, renovate houses. She's wanting a dog, which she does get in the post-credit scene. On the drive, Yelena says, "See my vest."
It has a lot of pockets. But I use them all the time. I've never had control over my own life before, and now I do.
So when she gives this vest to Natasha and Nat shows up wearing this same vest in Infinity War, it's not just about the pockets, folks. It is a symbol of she and her sister having more control over their lives. And we catch up with Alexei in prison.
It's cute.
There he is, Captain. Red Guardian's time. I grab hold of his shield. A test of strength.
Yeah, the other prisoner is right to point out, if this was 1983 or 84, Steve Rogers was still frozen in ice. And assuming Alexei had been in prison for longer than 5 years, it's impossible for the two to have ever met. Or Cap to have any idea who he is. And Alexei goes on with his story.
Anyway, this shield, that he carries with him like a precious baby blanket, I use it to my advantage. I take it, I push him out the window.
But if you think about it, Alexei does get a kind of victory moment this way in the final sequence, using the shield to his advantage to smash a soldier through the window of the jet. His prison tattoos are awesome, including a Russian Imperial Eagle on his chest and Karl and marks across his knuckles. Natasha and Yelena sent him a Red Guardian action figure. Yeah, it sounds like David Harbour actually recorded the Russian catchphrase for the toy. And I love that Natasha and Yelena assumed he would be wistful enough to pull that string so that he would find the earpiece in the head. On their tablet, this prison is called Seventh Circle Prison, which is the name of a run of the Punisher Daredevil comics, but also the Circle in Hell in Dante's
that's what I was
Inferno,
thinking.
souls that have committed acts of violence. Alexei's strong enough to break glass and kick down the doors, but not to climb the second level, perhaps justifying why he was unable to escape in the past. Natasha does her posed landing.
Right.
Yelena blows the tower, which triggers an avalanche, and Alexei springboards off a shield to make it up finally, similar to that moment in the Avengers when Natasha springboarded from Cap's shield to hop up to some Chitauri. And then after lifting him out, Yelena hits Alexei for abandoning them, and he asks if it's her time of the month, to which they respond,
I don't have a uterus.
Or ovaries.
Yeah, that's what happens when the Red Room gives you an involuntary hysterectomy.
yes, a much more vivid description of what Natasha described in Age of Ultron to Bruce Banner.
They have a graduation ceremony. They sterilize you. It's efficient. One less thing to worry about.
So they find Melina on her pig
So
farm where
sad.
she's using mind control tech to guide these pigs through a maze like lab rats. I just feel so bad for these pigs, especially that Alexei one, the one she nearly suffocates. Of course, not to mention the human test subjects, whom she never really seems to feel that bad about torturing.
We stole the key to unlocking free will. The world functions on a higher level when it is controlled.
Which leads to an argument over whether they were true family at any point.
Our family was never real, so there's nothing to hold on to.
Please don't say that. It was real. It was real to me. You are my mother. You were my real mother.
But afterwards, Melina and Natasha end up coming together over Natasha learning that her biological mother continued to look for her and then was killed off by Dreykov. I just feel like Melina's switch comes a bit too quickly, as if she might have had another agenda here. Like she could have revealed this to Natasha in order to gain her trust, but really to further incentivize Natasha to kill Dreykov in order to remove him from the Widow program and allow Melina to step in and take over the operation. Like, I just have a lot of questions about her plan. The way she has only one earpiece set, which is kind of a weird detail, almost like Melina wanted all the communication to this plan to go through her, and this plan was to offer to help land the Red Room right into Ross's lap, even though that could end up with her behind bars. And she does this by sneaking into the engine control room of a base that she designed and therefore would know that Dreykov would be watching her, so that she would have to oopsie daisy dos vidanya the engine to crash the whole thing that would conveniently destroy all evidence of her role in this chemically subjugating women program. I am just saying, things lucked out pretty great for the Iron Maiden. Let's keep an eye on that one. But back while they're talking, Yelena snaps at Alexei.
The only thing you care about are your stupid glory days is the Crimson Dynamo, and no one wants to hear about it.
It's the Red Guardian.
Crimson Dynamo was another Russian Marvel villain for whom in Iron Man 2 they took the name Anton Vanko, Ivan Vanko's father, and Ivan's fake ID bore the name Boris Turgenev, who was the second Crimson Dynamo in the comics. Dreykov's forces arrive and Yelena finds Natasha, or who she thinks is Natasha, but in that closet the masks are no longer hanging and the red and brunette wigs are taken away, just a clue that Natasha and Melina must have swapped. And they go to the Red Room, a floating base somehow hidden in the clouds.
Now you'll know how Dreykov stayed above the radar all these years.
Kind of a weird thing to say, but remember, Natasha is a big fan of 007, a genre where the villains tend to declare their plans aloud, and so by doing this, Natasha gives Alexei details that he otherwise might not have had, which might be why Taskmaster immediately re-sedates him. So Natasha, disguised as Melina, meets with Dreykov, who gets right up in her face right away.
It's a pain in my ass.
Yeah, notice he inhales through his nose briefly, and then shortly after, he cuts her off and forces her to sit while gripping her head. Yeah, he may have caught from this moment, or even from her scent, that this is not the real Melina, and then just plays along. And then as Dreykov boxes her in, saying Natasha is a traitor, the light from outside dims on his face, and then the jig is up.
When you look into the eyes of a child you have raised, no mask in the world can hide that.
Yeah, spy shit. Natasha previously used a similar mask in Captain America the Winter Soldier, and more recently Sharon Carter used one of these in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. In Dreykov's office hangs a portrait of Rasputin. This was the mystic healer and advisor to the final Russian royal family of Tsar Nicholas II, reflecting how Dreykov might see himself as the man with the magic touch, running the empire from the shadows, but really an empire that is about to topple due to a violent revolution. When Dreykov tells Antonia to reveal herself, she does so by hitting a specific button on her Buzz Lightyear panel, something Natasha notices and then later uses.
It's funny he should say that, because when they showed the widow that had fallen and broke her leg, I immediately thought of Buzz Lightyear.
Why?
Because there was a scene when he thinks he can fly in Toy Story, and he goes, and it's like his leg's inverted because he fell down.
And then later uses in the final blows of the fight on the ground to pop open her helmet so that she can spray her. Dreykov reveals he has been making widow agents out of girls all over the world. It's kind of impossible to count all of them on the screen, but by going by the little red squares, since we know each of them is a face, it looks like about 48 rows down and at least 3 times that wide. So around 7,000 widows or more, which is an insanely huge army of assassins.
I wonder how long it took them to
to
calculate
count all of that.
It must have been a frustrating experience. They're just like, obviously, it's all guesswork.
Yeah.
But someone had to meticulously go in and zoom in and yeah.
It's a lot.
That must have been frustrating.
But notice how this map shows no widows illuminated in the Wakanda region. Now this is still right after Civil War. Wakanda has not yet revealed itself as a major world power. People just think it's a small, poor farming country. But really, Dreykov's talk about toppling world empires really would not have upset the global status quo that much if Wakanda remained standing. And once Dreykov shows his cards by saying he runs it all from that control pad, Natasha responds,
"Thank you for your cooperation."
A callback to Avengers when she tricked Loki into revealing his plan.
Thank you for your cooperation.
So Natasha severs her olfactory nerve so that she can attack Dreykov, and you can see the moment she snatches his ring when she places her hand on his on the control pad, goes right over the ring, and as he falls back, no ring. Dreykov's glasses fall off as she hits him, but when the widows save him, he puts them back on, signaling how he's back in control, but setting up, when he dies, his glasses fly off after Yelena blows his getaway jet.
That's a nice little
Meanwhile,
detail.
Taskmaster's fighting Alexei, showing off some vibranium claws like Black Panther, and kick flips the shield, just like Cap's big move. Also, notice Taskmaster shows that she's been watching footage of the Winter Soldier as well, because she does Bucky's signature knife flip. Natasha fights the other widows as the red light from Dreykov's world map beams the faces of the other girls onto their own faces, just showing how all these women are connected, fighting for the fates of all the women around the globe. Yelena hits them all with an antidote grenade, and as Natasha downloads the data about the other widows, their faces flicker past, creating this kind of Michael Jackson black or white music video effect.
What a random reference. What a weird reference. That's exactly right. It was that, but it's most kids today have no idea what this is.
Right.
That's such a crazy reference.
It was an iconic video though.
No, most def. It was an iconic video, but goddamn, I was a kid when that came out.
Yeah.
Merge into one. Just another display of how all their forced servitude connects them in a way. When Natasha frees Taskmaster from the cell, Taskmaster's heads-up display in the helmet flickers, a little sign to Natasha that the prediction algorithm is glitching and she might have a chance base to break through to her. But the base explodes and crashes, leading to this insane skydive battle. And to stop her sister from falling first, echoing the first scene, Natasha dives after her with a parachute and then miraculously makes it to the ground safely enough. Natasha gets a scissor kick that Antonia is unable to reciprocate, so Natasha can open her helmet and punch the vial. In the aftermath of all this, the family makes their peace.
If it can work out with the four of us, there may be some hope for the Avengers.
Yes, this movie's way of linking the forgiving family theme with Natasha's
There
coming
we go.
conflicts
There it
alongside
is.
the Avengers, which Natasha echoes again in the final scene.
It's funny, my whole life I didn't think I had any family. Turns out I got two. So, one of them's a bit of a mess right now. I'm gonna go break a few of them out of prison. See if I can't help patch things up.
With her short blonde hair and Yelena's vest, she is ready for when we would chronologically see her next in Infinity War. Now, timeline-wise, this would set all the 2016 events of Black Widow just in the few days during the epilogue of Civil War, linking back up with Cap as he broke the others out of the raft at the very end of that film. And then still leaving it a big mystery what they were all doing for 2 years on the run after this. And as she takes off in the Quinjet,
Making
the
babies.
music is Alan Silvestri's
Just kidding.
Avengers.
Obviously she can.
Leaving us with the shot of the fireflies in the trees, just like in the opening scene.
Yeah,
But
what does
now
that mean?
visually linking with the glows on the world map, each glow
Oh.
representing one of the forgotten lives that these sisters have now put on a path.
I'm so glad he said that, because I was looking at that at the end of the movie. I'm like, what does this mean?
I know, because I remember you turning to me and you're like, ACHARA, what does it mean? And I'm like, listen, I don't know all the things, okay? I don't know what it means.
The hysterectomy thing with Black Widow and all the widows. If I'm not mistaken, Joss Whedon is the one that came up with that. And there was a huge controversy around it. Not from comic book fans, but from ladies.
The ladies.
Yeah, people just being... I can't remember exactly what the controversy was, if there was one, but I remember like there was some aggro feelings about it.
For me, I think it fits into the storyline. Like if you're going to have an army of trained female assassins and you want to control them and they're going into mind control and doing all that stuff, then controlling their bodies is another thing. And that's something that women are always, fighting for, is to have control of their own bodies. That's why women get really upset about certain government bodies trying to control access to birth control and abortions and stuff like that.
Whoa,
it's like...
Is it the A word? Can't have that.
And, and schmushmortions. That's why it's a big deal. It's about women having autonomy over their bodies. And so it really hurts me. Like when I watched that scene, I felt it, I was like, oh, that's so awful to have that done to you involuntarily. I mean, if it's your choice that you never want to have children, that's absolutely fine. But to have that taken from you.
As a woman, when you saw that scene, it was meaningful to you then in the airplane?
Yeah.
Okay. Because again, I just watched Jeremy Johns' review and he was frustrated with that scene that it wasn't taken more seriously, that it felt kind of jokey the way it was handled as opposed to it being a meaningful moment. So at least you got something out of it, because when I watched it, it did come off as uncomfortable for me, and it's supposed to be. It's by design.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think by, not leaning into the like heartbreak and like, oh my God, it's like they've dealt with it. They've had to deal with it. Right. That's their life. So they can kind of just flippantly be like, oh yeah, I don't have ovaries and I had a hysterectomy and what?
Now, I broke down the post-credit scene in a whole other video. Go check that out. But that is everything I noticed in Black Widow. More videos will be coming out on this channel about this movie soon. So be sure to subscribe to New Rockstars. Follow me at EABoss. Follow New Rockstars. Thanks for watching. Dos Vidania douchebags.
Dos Vidania douchebags.
Yeah.
I really like that. The thing that I got from this that I hadn't really thought about when we watched the film was the whole thing about Rachel Weisz's character.
Right, that was definitely something I didn't know about.
Yeah,
that's new information.
Oh, I can totally see how, that could be the case where maybe she's just getting all her eggs, how would you say?
Ducks
getting
in a
all
row.
her ducks in a row, yeah. Eggs.
Hatching all her eggs.
Yes, I don't know. No good at it.
Cooking her chicken.
Yes, but maybe she's just getting everything lined up so that she can, be the head honcho of the Red Room. But what was also interesting that I hadn't thought about before was how the person who is harming the women was a woman herself.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious though, isn't it? Like that's part of the philosophy of the film. The film has its SJW elements to it.
Sure, I mean, it's Disney.
The fact that they changed a Taskmaster to a woman is another. aspect of it. When you see Black Widow being held up and all the women are beating her up, like that's there's a lot of messages in there about, you know, female power and like women sticking together and how we're hurting each other.
We're hurting ourselves. Please stop. Like,
exactly.
It's the sisterhood.
Yeah.
Come on now, girls. Let's love each other and support each other. Girls supporting girls. Women supporting women. Let's go.
It is very much geared towards that agenda of feminism and whatnot to somewhat of an extreme, and I let that wash over me because for me, that's just part of our entertainment now. I try not to look too deeply into that. I know some people who were miffed by it, to say the least. Like, they were aggravated. I'm like, why?
Really?
Why are you aggravated by this? They're like, because it's so heavy-handed. It's
too in your face.
It's too in your face, and I'm like, but it's been in your face.
Yeah, I didn't really think about that too hard. For me, the message of family was the one that was the strongest.
Yeah, but like I do see what people are saying who are complaining about that stuff because like I did recognize it, but I enjoyed the film enough. I was like, it's fine. Like the thing is, you're gonna get these SJW messages everywhere right now, especially from Disney. You're gonna see that a lot, and I'm like, it's fine. Like I think that I hit my peak of aggravation with Aladdin and Jasmine singing "I Won't Be Controlled" or whatever the hell her song was.
And then it's like something about her losing her voice, not being able to use her voice, and then it's like that literally all just happened in your head though, dude.
Yeah, that was the peak of my rage with this being heavy-handed. And I would say I'm moderate, but like I favor liberal more than conservative.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's not like I'm against the messaging. It's just that sometimes it just feels so heavy-handed. It's like it's spoon feeding, right? And so after Aladdin, it's like it kind of blew my wad on rage, and now I just accept it. I'm like, all right, well, and so it's there, and you know, so that was my long ass, stupid, you know, long-winded response to what you're saying about like the messaging of, you know.
It's so weird to me that I didn't even clock about, you know, Rachel Weisz and her character, but you know, yeah, that was a good point, and maybe we will see her back again as like some big evil.
Yeah,
you know.
I enjoyed the Easter eggs in here. I thought that it was really cool, like the little details that I did miss. Like there's a lot of stuff he pointed out. The title is not hyperbolic. Like there are so many details that he's pointing out throughout this video where I'm like, oh my god, like I didn't even like the little bow tie becoming the symbol.
Yeah, that was really cool. Like I love how they really deep dive into it, and it just kind of helps to solidify ideas in my head, because I feel like when watching it, I clock everything. Like I notice it, but I'm not really thinking about the deeper meaning behind it.
It's moving so fast.
Yeah, because I'm just like watching it for plot. I'm watching it for character, for entertainment, for story. And so all of that stuff is like processing in the back of your mind. And then when you watch it, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that was really smart what they did. And like you realize just how much thought goes into every single frame.
I really got the Terminator vibe from Taskmaster. I've said that for a while.
Yeah.
I like that aspect to it. I think it's super cool, and him pointing out all the little details of what she's seeing in her visor. I'm like, oh yeah, that also feels like Terminator. You know, if you grew up with it like I did, you probably remember that stuff of like, I guess he's the T-800 is Arnold Schwarzenegger's model number, and you know, every time he's looking at stuff, it's like scanning and all this data showing up.
Yeah.
And it's so strange to me because I'm thinking, so like she's got that, I guess, the processor on the back of her neck that allows her to think that quickly to be able to process all the data. Because I'm thinking of myself being inside the helmet thing and like looking at all the data. I'm like, that's just gonna stop me from being able to catch a punch because I'm distracted by all the data.
But it's like when you're in the Matrix, right? Like when you get plugged in and you learn something, your brain is operating at like a different wavelength, a different level.
Yeah,
so like
certainly.
it's just all information, but you're not thinking about it too hard, you know.
Anyway, I enjoyed this overall. I thought this was really cool, and it was thorough. It was definitely
very thorough.
Definitely details I missed. So you guys, thanks so much for hanging out. Hopefully you enjoyed watching that along with us, and subscribe to New Rockstars as they're dropping all kinds of awesome videos, breaking down things you miss and Easter eggs and whatnot. Deeper meanings into the Marvel universe. Okay, I'm Jaby Koay. This is
ACHARA KIRK.
Peace out.